All right, hello everybody. Thanks for being here tonight. It's been nice to hear so many different perspectives. The only thing I want to correct so I don't get in trouble is I'm not a nurse. That's okay. I have the very special title of health promoter. Kind of, it sounds very, very nice and peachy, but I do get to work a lot with young people directly with youth engagement, both at schools, at youth centers, and in the community. So that's what I'm going to talk about tonight. So we know, obviously, that Planet Youth is for youth. It's right in the name. It's about reducing problematic substance use by creating better environments for youth well-being. So I'm really focusing on that better environments for youth well-being piece. But where do youth fit in other than the surveys? So we know they're involved in the survey. They're the grade 10 students that we'll survey every 2 years as part of this process. But youth engagement is not officially included as part of the original framework for Planet Youth. It focuses a lot on community, parent, and family engagement, which is super important. But here we knew that if we were embarking on this journey with youth as such a focus of it, that it couldn't be done without intentionally engaging young people's voices. So that's the little bubble there that's like nothing about us without us, which we've heard for lots of different populations when we're looking to help them, right? So engaging youth is definitely key to ensuring that any strategies or activities that come out of Planet Youth that we implement are not only meaningful, appropriate, but ultimately successful. And the other bonus to this, to engaging youth in general, is that communities that engage youth and value young people benefit not only from improved programming and better youth outcomes, but the process is the benefit itself. So simply by listening to young people, they feel valued. There's already improvements before you even get to the part where you're actually implementing a strategy. So it's like a win-win situation. And specifically for rural communities, there's even the extra bonus of when you value youth and engage them in the community, they are much more likely to stay in that community, whether it's going away for post-secondary education and then coming back. But rural communities need young people to survive and to thrive. And so that's really important for Lanark. So how are we involving youth? We've done a few things already. So early in 2022, Open Doors, Dr. Tanya Halsall and the Students Commission did some asset mapping with youth and youth centers in the area. So that was awesome. Even before that, before the survey, we had the mental health lead at one of our local school boards do some in-person focus groups with young people, specifically around risk factors, protective factors, and what influenced substance use. And now, right now, our current focus is to do consultations with young people at youth centers. So we're lucky to have a really strong network of awesome youth centers in Lanark County and all the different municipalities. So that system is already set up for us. So we're now accessing young people's voices through those youth centers. We started reaching out again. Of course, COVID put a big damper and everything got kind of slowed down a little bit. But we started reaching out again to the youth centers over the summer. We've already had 2 youth consultation sessions. We have 2 more planned, and we're hoping to get another 2 booked before the end of this year as well. So what are the goals of these youth consultations? Specifically this set of them. First and foremost, of course, we will inform the young people what Planet Youth is. We keep it kind of short and sweet, just enough information and context for it to make sense for them and to make it relevant, and so they know why we're coming to them and asking them these questions. And then we always offer additional information if they are curious or they're looking to be more involved. Our main goal, though, is to gather that youth input on ways to improve their communities for better well-being. We don't focus on substance use when we go and talk to the young people, because we know that if we improve their communities and make their communities that they live better places and more exciting places for them to live, that reduced substance use will be one of the effects, but not the only effect. And focusing on just the problem is not a very nice, I don't think a very engaging way to talk to young people if you just want to focus on the one issue instead of their whole overall well-being, like Dr. Lee talked about at the beginning. So we want their input on how to shape these strategies and interventions. The questions are tailored to the age of the young people, so it depends how old they are. I mentioned we don't ask directly about substance use. Often we focus on strengths, especially at the beginning. We'll ask them, what is awesome about your community? What makes you feel good in your community? And how can we get more of that? And sometimes that will lead into talking about barriers, like what's stopping you from doing that more, or why can't you engage in that more frequently? And then, so we talked already about the survey. So the survey is that quantitative data that will allow us to know if we've moved the needle or changed the measurements at all. But the information we're getting from these youth consultations is really that meaty, rich information that will help us to inform the interventions. We gather it in a really open focus group consultation style, so young people can kind of build off of each other's ideas and really tap into their needs, their wants, and their dreams for their community. And finally, our last goal is to recruit some more youth leadership, or some youth leadership in general, so that we can help inform the steering committee on youth perspectives and make sure that youth voices stay at the forefront of all the work that Planet Youth does. This is just a little visual representation of Hart's Ladder. Some people will be very familiar with this. It kind of outlines the levels of youth participation and reminds us to keep it intentional and meaningful. You probably can't read that, that's way too tiny, but the bottom 3 rungs are the ones you really want to stay away from. They're actually called levels of non-participation. So you want to be very careful not to involve youth with tokenism or decoration in mind. You want everything to be very transparent and meaningful when you talk to them. So we want to be very clear that the consultation work we're doing with young people at youth centers right now is not a super high level of youth engagement. We're at about rung 5, so where youth are consulted and informed, but adults are making the decisions still. We definitely have goals to be higher. When we did the asset mapping, I'm using the very royal we there, I wasn't involved in that, that was Dr. Hulsell and the Students' Commission. They were at a level 6 or higher because they had youth and young adult advisors informing the process as well. And we are definitely striving for higher levels of youth participation and engagement as we evolve, but we want to be very transparent with young people about how their feedback is being used, as well as any opportunities that are available for leadership roles. So what have we learned so far? We've done those 2 sessions, and there's already very recurring themes, okay? So even with the two sessions, we're hearing things loud and clear, and I'm sure nobody here is surprised that the first one is transportation. We live in a really rural area, and getting to places once you're home from school, or if you're not already in town for school, is really tough. So they had some great suggestions already. A lot of them involve things like late buses from schools or busing to central locations like youth centers. Some hopefully temporary problems with that seem to be around a bit of a bus driver shortage, so hopefully that's short term. Another thing they talked about is really wanting increased drop-in opportunities for extracurricular activities. You know, it's not always possible for people to make choices and decisions in July and August as to what they're going to do for the next 10 months, which a lot of structured extracurricular sport things require. So they wanted more art opportunities and more sport opportunities on a casual basis. They also talked a lot about improved infrastructure for outdoor active transportation and play. So they suggested things like more crosswalks, better walking and bike paths, putting lighting in areas that young people use a lot, like the skate park, so that they can use it for longer hours, especially when it's dark at 5 o'clock. They talked about lending programs for equipment, for example, snowshoes or protective gear for the skate parks. Like maybe they've got their own skateboard, but they don't have the elbow and the knee pads. So easily accessible lending programs for things like that. And finally, they talked about the need for more trust between adults and youth. They gave examples about things like store policies that require them to leave their bags at the door or limit the number of young people that are allowed in a store at a time. And they talked about how that does not make them feel like they are trusted or valued members of the community. So what are we going to do next? We are going to complete this round of consultations. We are going to make sure that we keep the young people informed. One thing that we've heard loud and clear is that we're kind of bad about closing the loop. We ask young people a lot about their wants and needs, and we don't always follow up with them about where that information went. So we have made a promise to come back to them in 6 months and sooner if there's any need, and invite them to participate as we move along the process. We're going to share any information they have with the communities that they live in, with the steering committee, and with any action groups that come out of this, so that we can make sure any strategies that are implemented are grounded in what the youth have told us. And then we're going to keep encouraging a youth leadership component for Planet Youth so that we can keep those voices at the forefront. And I think that's it for me. All right, I'll invite Dr. Tanya Hulsel to come up.